The strongest network in your life may start with something that does not look like networking at all. It often starts with giving, not big public giving, and not the kind designed to impress people. Just real value, offered early, with no immediate invoice attached. That matters because most people do not decide who to trust by looking at numbers first. They look at behavior. They notice who shows up, who helps, who shares, who makes life easier, and who only appears when they need something. And once that becomes visible, the whole game changes. Money can buy access, introductions, and attention for a while. It can put you in the room, but it cannot force real goodwill. It cannot make people speak well of you when you are absent. It cannot make someone think of you first when an opportunity appears and they only have one name to send. Not because people are keeping score in some neat little ledger, but because generosity sends a signal that is deeper than generosity itself. It tells people something about how you think. It suggests that you are not trapped in pure self-interest, that you can see beyond the immediate exchange, and that you understand relationships as something worth building before they are needed. That is rare. Most people are careful with money, but even more careful with effort, time, attention, and useful knowledge. So when someone gives those things well, it stands out. And it stands out even more in professional life, where so many interactions feel polite on the surface, but transactional underneath. The first reason giving builds a powerful network is simple. It creates trust before there is pressure. A lot of relationships begin under pressure. Someone needs a favor. Someone wants a job lead. Someone asks for a connection, a recommendation, a referral, a chance. And there is nothing wrong with asking. The problem is that pressure reveals what the relationship actually is. If nothing has been built before the ask, then the whole interaction suddenly feels heavy. Giving changes that sequence. When you offer something useful before the moment of need, you remove the weight. That something might be a thoughtful introduction, a piece of advice that saves someone from a mistake, a helpful resource, a warning, encouragement at the right moment, or even a few minutes of real attention when most people are distracted. None of those things look dramatic, but they do something important. They tell the other person, this relationship does not only exist when I need an outcome. People remember that. They may not thank you with perfect words. They may not repay you immediately. In many cases, they cannot. But the relationship becomes easier, warmer, and more durable because trust arrived before negotiation did. And once trust arrives early, future collaboration feels natural instead of forced. This is one reason some people seem to have a network that quietly supports them at the exact right times. From the outside, it looks lucky, but often that network was not built by charm or aggressive self-promotion. It was built by repeated moments of useful generosity that lowered defenses over time. And that brings up something people often miss. Giving is not only about kindness. It is also about information. The way a person gives tells others how they think. If you give carefully, without trying to dominate, people notice that you respect boundaries. If you give something relevant, they notice that you pay attention. If you give without making the other person feel smaller, they notice that you are secure enough not to turn every helpful act into a performance. That combination is powerful, because strong networks are not built from contact lists. They are built from judgment. Anyone can collect names, anyone can gather followers, business cards, or connections on a screen. But when real opportunities move, people do not ask, who has the longest list? They ask, who is reliable? Who is thoughtful? Who handles people well? Who makes things better rather than more complicated? Generosity answers those questions before they are asked. That is the second reason giving builds a network money cannot buy. It reveals your character in motion. A person can say they care about relationships. A person can say they value people. A person can say they want to contribute. But when they consistently give attention, support, and useful help where it actually matters, they no longer need to announce those qualities. Other people experience them directly, and experience creates stronger belief than image ever can. This is especially true in environments where everyone is trying to advance. In competitive spaces, many people become guarded. They protect information. They hesitate to help unless there is an immediate gain. They worry that every generous act is a loss. But the strange thing is that this defensive style often makes them look smaller, not stronger. It may protect a little in the short term, but it also limits what people feel safe sharing with them, building with them, or trusting them with. A generous person, by contrast, often becomes a point of movement in the room. People bring ideas to them. They ask for perspective. They open doors back, not out of obligation alone, but because useful generosity makes collaboration feel less risky. Over time, that can matter more than technical skill alone. Two people may be equally competent, equally ambitious, and equally intelligent. But if one of them leaves people feeling used, while the other leaves people feeling strengthened, only one of those people is likely to develop a network that keeps expanding even when they are not in the room. And there is another layer beneath that. Giving changes the quality of the people around you. It does not attract everyone. In fact, wise generosity often filters people. Some people only appear where there is something to take. They disappear when the exchange becomes mutual, patient, or meaningful. But the right kind of giving draws out a different group. It tends to attract people who notice value, who respect effort, and who understand that relationships are built over time. That filtering effect is quietly important, because success is not only about how many people you know, it is about what kind of people remain close to you once things get difficult, slow, uncertain, or unglamorous. A flashy network can disappear very quickly when status drops or money tightens. A real network gets tested under pressure and often becomes visible only then. That is where giving starts to show its real strength. There is a difference between people who enjoy your position and people who care about your person. There is a difference between those who like being near outcomes and those who would still answer the phone when there is no clear benefit waiting on the other side. Money can attract the first group very easily. It struggles with the second. Giving, especially the kind that costs attention and sincerity, has a much better chance. At some point in life, many people discover this the hard way. They succeed outwardly, but feel strangely unsupported. They know many people, but cannot think of many they would call in a hard season. They have access, but not closeness. Visibility, but not loyalty. Movement, but not real backing. That can be a painful realization. Because what most people want is not just to win. They want to know that the life they are building includes human support they can trust. They want success that does not collapse into loneliness the moment things become complicated. Have you ever realized, maybe a little late, that the people who truly stayed with you were not the people you impressed, but the people you once treated with genuine care? If something like that has happened to you, I'd genuinely like to hear it. The third reason giving builds the kind of network money cannot buy is that generosity creates memory. People forget a lot of conversations. They forget titles. They forget polished language. They even forget advice. But they remember relief. They remember who made a hard moment lighter. They remember who gave them clarity when they were confused, who believed in them before the evidence was obvious, who made an introduction that changed direction, who defended them fairly, who shared credit instead of collecting all of it. Those moments stay. And because they stay, they travel. This is how reputation really spreads. Not through slogans, not through carefully managed branding, but through stories that other people tell about what it felt like to deal with you. A generous act, when it is real, often gets repeated in private. Someone says, "That person helped me when they did not have to." Another says, "They were fair." Someone else says, "They gave me an opportunity before I had much to show." No advertisement can compete with that kind of sentence. It carries emotional weight because it comes attached to lived experience. And once enough of those experiences accumulate, your network starts doing something that money cannot easily purchase. It starts extending your presence into rooms you have never entered. People trust you before meeting you because trust was transferred through someone else's story. That is a form of leverage, but a very human one. It compounds slowly, and because it compounds slowly, many people underestimate it. They want faster proof. They want direct returns. They want to see a neat line connecting one generous act to one useful outcome. But that is rarely how it works. More often, generosity creates a field of goodwill that becomes visible later, in ways that are hard to predict. A person thinks of you during hiring. Someone recommends you for a partnership. A client stays patient during a mistake. A friend warns you about a bad deal before it traps you. An investor takes the second meeting. A colleague defends your name when you are not there to protect it. None of that can be forced. And once that happens, the meaning of giving gets deeper. It is no longer just a moral gesture. It becomes a way of building resilience into your life. Because the real value of a network is not measured when everything is easy. It is measured when plans break, confidence drops, money slows, timing fails, and the polished version of your life is no longer available. In those moments, some people discover that they built visibility, not support. Others discover that years of thoughtful generosity created a kind of social strength that quietly holds them up. The fourth reason giving matters is that it changes you internally, not just socially. A person who gives well usually starts to see value differently. They become less obsessed with extracting from every interaction. They become better at noticing what other people need. They learn how to contribute without controlling. They learn that not every worthwhile return arrives quickly. That shift sounds emotional, but it is practical too, because it changes how you move through the world. People who live in constant scarcity often communicate it, even when they are financially comfortable. Every exchange feels tense. Every favor feels expensive. Every opportunity feels like something to grab before someone else does. Others can feel that pressure, and they pull back from it. But a person who has learned the discipline of giving often carries a different presence. They are still thoughtful. They are not naive. They do not say yes to everything, but they do not radiate desperation. And that alone can make them easier to trust, easier to partner with, and easier to support. This is where generosity becomes connected to financial progress in a way that is more believable than most people expect. Not because the universe suddenly rewards nice behavior with cash, and not because every good deed comes back in a tidy business package. Life is not that mechanical. The connection is more grounded than that. Giving improves trust. Trust improves access. Access improves opportunities. Opportunities improve progress. And progress, when supported by strong relationships, becomes more stable. That is a very different claim from saying generosity magically creates wealth. It does not. But it often creates the human conditions in which better opportunities can find you, survive with you, and grow through you. That is not fantasy. That is how real life tends to work. Still, one final distinction matters. Giving only builds a strong network when it remains real. If generosity becomes a strategy in the narrowest sense, people usually feel it. They notice when help is simply bait. They notice when kindness arrives with hidden pressure attached. They notice when someone gives in order to appear superior, indispensable, or morally clean. That kind of giving may create temporary advantage, but it rarely creates deep trust. Real generosity has self-respect inside it. It gives from strength, not from neediness. It helps without begging to be admired. It knows when to stop. It knows that saying no at the right time can protect the meaning of every yes. And because of that, it remains clean enough to build the one thing performative generosity never can. Near the end of life, very few people wish they had impressed more strangers. Very few wish they had seemed more important. What many people ache for is simpler and deeper than that. They want to know they built a life where people felt safe with them, grateful for them, and glad to stand beside them when it counted. That kind of support is not an accessory to success. In many ways, it is the part that makes success feel real. So the takeaway is this: if you want a network that lasts, do not start by asking how to be known. Start by asking how to be useful. Give value before the moment demands it. Give attention without calculation. Give help that leaves people stronger, not indebted. Because the relationships that shape your future are rarely bought into existence. They are built quietly through repeated acts of generosity that people never forget. If ideas like this make you see success a little differently, you might enjoy the next conversations too.